Hey there, Stanford fans. This is Abeytia for the Bootleg post-game sports report, here with the great Casey Jacobsen, who did the game for Stanford on color commentary and was also honored for the 100th anniversary as an All-American for Stanford. So a big day for Casey. Didn't quite have the ending Stanford fans would have wanted, and so basically first impressions on where exactly the Cardinal came short today.
Oh, this is a gut punch for a Stanford team. You know, going into the season, I feel like, you know, they had an opportunity to really finish in the top 3 or 4 of this conference. You know, they have everything that you need: senior leadership, Chase and Randall running the point, Anthony Brown on the wing, and Stefan Nasic, the improvement that he's made in today's game against Oregon. You know, I think it's a bad matchup for Stanford, and the reason I say that is because of Oregon's defense. They play a lot of 2-3 zone, but it's not even that. They switch almost everything, so it's difficult. Do you run man-to-man offense or zone offense? And I felt like a lot of the time Stanford was confused on where and when to get shots.
Okay, yeah, and you know, we talked about this as being kind of a strength versus strength matchup. Oregon pretty much has nobody who plays who's bigger than 6'7", yeah. So clearly we know what Stanford wanted to do, and they were able to do it at times, just not enough to overcome what Oregon was doing to them on offense. Can you talk about the duck attack a little bit? Yeah,
well, I mean, this is a matchup of 2 of the top 3 scoring teams in the conference, so I knew it would be relatively high scoring. I look at the board, 70 to 73. I was thinking it was going to be more in the 80s, but when Oregon can get stops on the defensive end and they get out in the open court, you mentioned they don't have any plodding, slow, big guys. They are guards who are sprinting up and down the floor. Their biggest player is 6'7" or 6'9", Jordan Bell, is a freshman who you saw. He got a huge alley-oop dunk. That's their game. They want to play up and down, and they did a nice job of that, especially in the second half.
So one last thing, certainly all Stanford fans know about your familiarity with the end game. One small critique we might have with the video highlight they showed of you didn't include the Duke shot that, of course, everybody remembers, but bringing it to this game, in the end game, a lot of times teams seem just content to just go with that 1-on-5, give it to your best player at the top of the key, and for Stanford, it hasn't worked out quite as often as I think you'd hope, but take us as a player and as a coach, how do you think of the end game and how do you play that out in your mind?
Well, it's difficult. Stanford has a lot of offensive options that they can go to. Do they put the ball in Chase and Randall's hands and, you know, run a pick and roll and allow him to get to the basket? Do they maybe run something off the ball, a misdirection play to get Anthony Brown an open look? Or do they do what they often do in the half-court set, which is throw the ball down to Stefan Nasic and let him work inside out? When you're playing a team like Oregon who's going to zone you in those situations, it's even more difficult to find a way to manipulate that defense. You know, that shot you talked about, what I hit against Duke, that was all it was a simple back screen, catch, and rip and drive to the basket and then make a play. So let's not get too complicated. You know, you put the ball in the hands of your best players and allow them to make a shot. Tonight, Chase and Randall just threw the ball away at an inopportune time, but he'll be back.
Yeah, I think so. Definitely has 2 games to play, and with the way Stanford can score, maybe not time to write them off completely yet moving to the desert. Going to be tough, but like you said, they've got plenty of offense.
Yeah, you can't write them off, but certainly they have dug themselves a hole that it's going to be very difficult to get out. Now they have to go to the desert to win at Arizona State, and they really, in my opinion, have to win in Tucson to really think, you know, because they don't have a signature win. Right. What's their signature win in conference play? They have no wins against any of the teams that are above them in the table, so they need a win there or Pac-12 tournament.
Right. So the light's not out, but certainly getting dim here. But we definitely want to thank the great Casey Jacobsen for giving us his insight into the game. Stanford comes up a little bit short today, 73-70, and now are certainly on must-win, no more mulligans time for the Cardinal basketball team. So for everybody at the Bootleg, this is RJ Abeytia once again saying goodnight, everybody.